What's up, everybody? I am your host, a satanic demon that is obsessed with games, and that is my co-host, the cocaine-fueled fuck-up of the family. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we cover one of my favorite horror comedy movies, which if you listen to the show, you know that I'm really picky on my horror comedy, but I give this one the gold star. Radio Silence, Ready or Not from 2019. Man, what a fun movie this is. I love it. I think it is the perfect blend of comedy in a horror movie. I love how it makes fun of the super rich, which I think resonates with a lot of people right now, considering how the super rich people have squeezed every fucking ounce of money out of the working man or working woman.
This probably resonates with a lot of times.
Yeah, well, this time
Nobody's ever like super rich.
I feel like the
Like
past
there's rich
4 years have been really, really rough with them, though.
Yeah, but I mean that's probably how every generation's felt with, and it always gets worse, never gets better.
Yeah, it's true.
The gap always grows. I'm just upset how you had to get personal there. The cocaine fuck up of the family, huh?
Yeah, I'm sorry to break it to you this way, but I think we're gonna vote you out of the family.
Well, my middle name is Wayne.
Oh, and heads up, next weekend we will be covering the Spooky Empire Horror Convention. So keep an eye out for some cool photos, some videos. Just like last year, I will post all the cool shit I got. Probably gonna shout out some really cool artists. I think last year I plugged everyone I bought something from. I'm pretty sure I got like a card from everybody and I literally shouted everybody out because everything I bought was like made by somebody. No, that's not true. I got some VHSs from somebody, but some of the stuff I bought was like made by people who do a fantastic job at making cool shit. So keep an eye out for that. And we will be meeting up with the man, the myth, the legend, and one of our biggest and best fans from the jump, from day one, Mr. Chris Hansen. He's going to join us at the convention.
Yeah, I'm excited for the convention. This is the
biggest
first horror convention period in Charleston. I guess Charleston's now finally growing to a place where they can have something like this. The one we went to last year, which is SC Horror, that's next month, right?
Yeah, end of September, maybe middle of September, I think is the end. I can't exactly remember. I remember last year it was at the end of September. So it's probably around there, but yeah, that's a little bit of a smaller one, a lot more affordable one.
Still great.
I really like this year that we have a more expensive one with a lot of big time horror icons are going to be there, and then we have a smaller one where we still get some really cool horror people and there's more cool shit to buy. So I'm not upset about it. We went from having none to having two.
Yeah, I'll definitely take it. You probably remember the call I gave you when I seen this was announced.
Yeah.
And I had to read it like 7 times because I'm like, there's no way they're having one this big, because we had just talked about the one in Columbia, the smaller one. Like, there's no way they're doing this here, but they are.
So with all of that being said, this movie is awesome. I have been wanting to talk about it forever. So are you ready to jump? Or no, let me say it like this. Are you ready or not to talk about Ready or Not?
I am ready, or not.
Or not. Let's do it.
But first, if you want to stay up to date on what is going on with us or the show, talk about or submit your movie requests, or just say hey, you can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facebook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instagram at Grindhouse.Syndicate.Horror.Pod, and many more, which you can find links for in the show notes as always. And please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes.
And if you really love us and don't want us to make a deal with the devil, give us a review. So Ready or Not is a 2019 American dark comedy horror film directed by Matt Beninelli Olpin and Tyler Gillette, aka Radio Silence. It was written by Guy Buswick and R. Christopher Murphy. It stars Samara Weaving, Adam Brody, and Andy McDowell. It follows a young bride who is hunted by her spouse's wealthy family as part of a wedding night ritual to worship the devil. Man, we've done a lot of devil movies lately.
Yeah, this
Ever
one
since,
doesn't feel like a devil movie,
Since
though.
Late Night with the Devil, I feel like we're on a devil roll. Like an evil demons or the devil or a cult. We had Rosemary's Baby.
The last I think we talked about this was Longlegs on our review,
Yeah.
and this is kind of similar in the way that it doesn't feel like a satanic movie.
Oh, no.
Doesn't feel like that at all
This movie's fun
until
as
you
fuck.
get to the end and realize it's Satan.
Yeah.
Or as you would say,
Satan.
yeah, there we go.
Preparations begin on November 2017 when Radio Silence were hired as directors with Busick and Murphy attached to write the screenplay. After setting an initial release date, casting occurred from August to October 2018. Principal photography began later that month, concluded in November, shot on locations in and around Toronto and the surrounding Ontario area. Ready or Not premiered at the Fantasia International Film Festival on July 27, 2019, and was theatrically released in the United States on August 21st, 2019 by Fox Searchlight Pictures. This was a mere one day after I went to Iraq. I just realized that.
Yep. You were going to Iraq and they were going to Canada.
Yep.
Big difference.
No, that's it. That's when it came out in theaters.
Oh.
So it dropped and I was on a plane, probably still traveling.
Thought you meant the filming.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it. I was like, did I see this in theaters? And I was like, nope, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't go to the Al-Mazir or whatever theater like that somewhere in there?
There is actually one at one of the bigger bases that people land at in Kuwait. There's a movie theater there. A lot of people talk shit because, hey, you're on a deployment and you get to go to the movie theater. But I was only there like 8 hours, so I didn't get to go enjoy that.
Yeah. There's a lot of bangers filmed in Canada, man.
Canada's putting out some heat right now.
Meaning to look this up, but I wonder what kind of tax breaks Canada gives.
Amazing one.
Because, it costs a lot of money to ship everything you need and to prepare to I guess it doesn't cost much more than it would going to any location off of a set. But probably a little more. I mean, depending on where they film it. I have no idea the geography of Canada, so I don't know if that's close to the border.
Most of it's Toronto. I mean, Toronto's turned into like Hollywood.
I have no idea where that's at in Canada. It could be at the top. It could be, well, it couldn't be at the top. It'd be frozen.
Yeah.
But it could, I don't know if Toronto's close to the border or not. But they must get some really good tax breaks for these movies to go film there.
They do, and they only really have one stipulation, which is you have to have a certain amount of Canadian actors, which, people use a lot of Canadian actors anyway, so no big deal.
If only we gave less tax breaks to billionaires.
And more to movies.
This
should be a shirt. So it received positive reviews from critics and grossed $57.6 million worldwide against a $6 million budget. It was nominated for Best Horror Film at the 46th Saturn Awards. In March 2024, it was reported that a sequel was in development with Adam Robitel in early negotiations to serve as director. Samara Weaving is expected to reprise her starring role. If you're not familiar with that guy, he directed The Taking of Deborah Logan. He did one of the newer Insidiouses. I don't know them very well. The Last Key.
I think that's 4.
And then he did both of the Escape Room movies, which I've seen the first one. Really cool. If you like Saw, check out Escape Room. And he did one of the Paranormal Activities. I don't think it was one of the good ones, though.
One of the 27 that they came out with.
Yeah, one of the later ones.
I think they ended up with 7 of them, 7 or 8. I don't know. I lost track of the story after like 3 or 4.
Three is the last one I really paid attention to. I will say that I don't think this movie should get a sequel.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they're gonna pull that off.
I think we talked about this with It Follows, where I just think it's a movie that's really good. It has a really good story. The story concluded, and that should be it.
You said, was it the actress that plays Grace? Is she reprising?
Yeah, Samara Weaving, who
Yeah.
I'm madly in love with. Remember how
Well-
excited I got when I told you she was going to be in Scream 6? And then she was in Scream 6 for like all of 2 minutes. And I was upset about that.
Yeah, she pulled the Drew Barrymore in
Yeah.
the original Scream in it for a very short period of time.
She's killing it in horror movies, though, nowadays. She's in all kinds of horror movies, so
Yeah,
she's amazing.
I was thinking, they could probably pull it off doing a prequel because we know some of the prequel story. We know Aunt Bitchface, her whole story with her husband, but we also get some of the backstory on the great grandfather who kind of first came across this box.
Yeah, I would be
But-
fine with a prequel. I don't want a sequel, though.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do a sequel.
Just leave it be.
I have a feeling they're gonna jump into the future, and she's now her family now inherits the curse, and she's got to come up with how she's gonna handle that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem with the sequel, in my opinion, is what makes this movie awesome is it's like a fun idea that we hadn't seen before, and it's funny. It's got really good comedy. Like somebody who, like me, is really picky about comedy. Like I don't want it to be stupid. And this is genuinely funny. Like it has great one-liners and, kind of great things throughout the movie. And I just don't know if they're going to replicate that, especially not even using the original people. I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
Not a huge fan of horror comedy. One thing this movie has that they can't replicate with the sequel is a big part of this movie is you're kind of in the
Wondering-
dark.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, you have no idea what's going on the first time you watch it. Then at one point, you're like, "Oh my god, are they gonna kill her? Why?" You're thinking of like, "What's going on? Why is this a thing?" And even to the end, when you think, "Is this thing real? Are they just fucking crazy?" You're not going to be able to replicate that in a second one.
The cat's out of the bag. All right, so ratings. Rotten Tomatoes gave this an 89%. IMDb gave it a 6.9 out of 10, Letterboxd a 3.5 out of 5, and the Google average audience rating is a 4.3 out of 5. If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently find it streaming on Fubo TV. I've never heard of Fubo TV.
Fubo. Yeah, Fubo is, you got to pay. You got to pay for Fubo.
Really?
I know that they carry like the local channels, so you can get a big thing that in the past years that I know of that they've done is they promote that you can watch the NFL games. Because if you don't have a way to watch your local regular cable channels like your local Fox affiliate or your local CBS, as I know as a Panthers fan, you can't watch the fucking games unless you go get a satellite.
Huh.
So that's a big thing and I've looked into it because I'm like, well, it's got to be cheaper than getting like a Sunday ticket. It's not. It's like
Huh.
$90 a year or something.
Wow. Well, it's on Fubo, if you got that. Sling TV, and you can rent it from Apple, Amazon, or YouTube for $3.99. All right. So you ready to talk about the plot?
Are you ready?
Or not? So we start off in the past during a dark and stormy night where we see these two little boys named Daniel and Alex running through this very fancy old mansion. The slightly older boy, Daniel, hides his brother Alex in a broom closet, and as he is creeping down the hallway, he is grabbed by a man from behind. And this man begs for his help as the rest of the family is trying to kill him. We then see that the man is wearing a tuxedo and has a very bloody wound in his abdomen. After a brief pause, Daniel then shouts to the rest of the family that the man, whose name is Charles, is in here. Pretty much immediately, we see all of these people walk in the room holding weapons, wearing fancy clothes under these like very nice black robes, and masks on their faces. We then have one woman named Helene screaming no from the hallway as she attempts to reach the man. A couple of the family members hold her back as another masked man shoots Charles with a spear gun. As the family members drag Charles away to another room, we see Daniel's mother remove her creepy mask, lean down to his level, and tell him that she is so proud of him. This comes back way later on, so remember this part.
Yeah, this movie teaches you anything. It's don't trust rich kids.
Yeah.
About as much as you would trust their parents. The kids are no better.
Nope.
Fucking bastards.
So Daniel then watches as an injured Charles is dragged away while screaming that they don't have to do this and that nothing is really going to happen. We also see here that Helene is wearing a wedding dress. The door shuts as Daniel stares with a blank look on his face, and the screen goes black with the blood-curdling screams of Charles. So we then jump ahead 30 years later to our main character, Grace, who is sitting in a wedding dress practicing her vows, and she looks like a motherfucking goddess. We then meet her husband to be Alex, who he was the kid that got put in the closet right before Charles was killed. And they're all grown up now. And they are talking about how fucked up Alex's super rich family is and how his brother Daniel, who is always plastered, hits on Grace all the time. We also learn here that Alex and Grace have only been together for 18 months, and Grace is worried that his family doesn't like her. Alex said that she shouldn't care what they think because they are terrible people. His brother Daniel then walks in and, in a half-joking manner, tells Grace it is not too late to flee and you don't belong in this family. This comment will make a lot more sense later on, but right now I think Grace kind of takes it as, because she's not like from a super wealthy family herself, like she doesn't really fit in or belong with the family. We realize later on that that's not really what Daniel meant.
No, but you can tell Daniel's being very serious.
Yes.
Whereas if you hear the dialogue on this, you might think he was saying it in a joking manner.
No,
And I think that's kind of how she took it. But no, he's being very serious. But get the fuck out of here.
And also, before I forget to mention this, this family has gotten like mega wealthy from making and selling board games. So they are basically like the evil Milton Bradley. And this doesn't really seem too important, but it definitely comes into play. So this is where Alex gets real serious and tells Grace that Daniel is right and it's not too late to back out. Just call the whole thing off and leave. But she says that she is all in and they romantically kiss, and then we get the title card, Ready or Not.
Man, 18 months, it's not a long time to know somebody to marry them.
Not at all. And he does say later on, like, he didn't really want to propose, but he knew like she was going to leave him if he didn't propose. I'm like, damn, man, you haven't been dating even 2 years and she was giving you that ultimatum.
Yeah.
Rough.
And we'll get more into that when we get to that point in the plot. But yeah, his excuse is really, really weak, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like 18 months knowing somebody and knowing what he knows. Man, what was his outcome? Like, how did he think this was gonna go?
So we then jump to the wedding photos, and at this point we start seeing some of the family's dynamics here, which are very fucked up. Basically, all of the members of this family hate each other, and the only thing that kind of keeps them together is the money. Grace then meets her mother-in-law, which it's kind of weird to meet your husband or wife's whole entire family the day of the wedding. Never met before. But anyway, she can tell Grace is nervous, and she tells her that because she also didn't come from a rich family, they said the same thing about her. She then tells Grace to stand tall and fuck 'em. We then see Grace and Alex get married. They share their first kiss as husband and wife, and everyone stands and cheers. So it is now a done deal.
We also get a view of Aunt Helene and her awful if looks could kill face.
God, her face is awful. Her
It
face is
is.
so bad.
She aged terribly in 30 years, and it really fucked her up. But on top of that, God, she is a bitter woman.
Yeah, to the end, to the very end. So later, after the wedding and reception, Grace and Alex head up to the room in the mansion, and Grace is ready to fuck. But Alex kind of like fights her off, saying that he needs to tell her something. And as Grace is kissing Alex on the bed, she gets startled by this very mean looking old lady who we learn is Aunt Helene. That's not what you want to see when you're trying to get down, is this, resting bitch face staring at you through a mirror. Very creepy.
Yeah, that definitely killed the mood. I had to put her out there. I don't know why he didn't break this news to her after.
Why didn't she come through the regular door too? She like sneaks in through the
Because it's
secret
fucking
door.
Aunt Helene and she's a bitch.
She is a bitch.
For those who maybe haven't seen this, Aunt Helene is the lady who was getting married in the beginning. So she has some experience with this.
Yeah. But anyway, she then informs Alex that everyone is waiting downstairs for them. Grace is like, what the fuck? Why is everyone waiting for us? And Alex then informs her that at midnight, they have to play a game, which is like this tradition, ritual thing that they do every time someone new joins the family. And Grace is trying to like hold her laughter back when she asks like what game. And Alex tells her that he doesn't know yet because she has to draw a card to see. And it could be something simple like backgammon, croquet, or even checkers. Grace then asks if she has to win the game, which Alex says no, you just have to play, and after that you are like officially a part of the family, which, we find out means a lot to Grace because we, find out that she didn't have a family. She was kind of given up by her parents or something.
She was dropped off by the storks.
And they left her at was they leaving out the firemen?
The fire station.
Fire station with old babies back in the day. But yeah, she grew up in like the foster system, so she's kind of really wanting to latch on to a real family. We then get a quick conversation between Alex and his dad, Tony, where Tony asks him how much has Alex told her. He says he hasn't told her anything and he doesn't plan to, informing him that after tonight, they are gone. Tony then asks him that if she pulls a certain card, will he be willing to do what he has to do? To which Alex responds by saying nothing and walking away. So then we see everyone gather right before the game. Alex's sister Emily and her husband Fitch show up like around this time. They missed the wedding for, I can't remember what stupid fucking reason. We see that Fitch is kind of like one of those stuck up rich assholes. And Emily shows up with cocaine still on her nose. What's a way to show up to a wedding?
Yeah, that's why they were late. She had to pick up her kilo of cocaine. I assume you probably buy by the kilos when you have money like that.
You see that Helene, who is taking this game, like this whole thing is super fucking serious to her. And Emily tries talking to her and Helene can't even be like bothered to know her name. She just calls her brown-haired niece.
She's such a bitch.
What a fucking bitch.
At this point in the movie, the first time seeing it, if you caught that it was Helene in the beginning.
I didn't the first time I seen it. I actually didn't.
I can't remember if I did or not, but I know I caught it this time. And I didn't remember it, so I may not have noticed the first time. But you wonder if maybe what she went through, whatever it was, you don't know at this point, but she's very, if she's just been bitter since then.
I think she has. I think she looks at it as, she's the only one that really had to make this horrific sacrifice. And, she even says later on, like, the only person that ever loved me. So I think that she kind of gave up on love after that. And then she was like, well, I'm just going to devote my life to this instead of a marriage and a family and stuff.
I do wonder because when everything pops off, Charity says this has only happened once since I've been in the family, which had to have happened after Helene, because that was 30 years ago.
I don't think it has.
She would have been a kid.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works because I don't think it has happened because Emily asked Daniel later on about, because obviously she wasn't alive yet and she was like, well, what about the only other time it's happened? And he was like, when he was a kid, and he's like, yeah, I remember it. So since Daniel's been around, it has only happened that one time.
Yeah, I don't know why they put that in there.
I don't know. So they then head into the game room, which is reserved for family members only. And when Grace walks in, we see that there are all these like taxidermied animal heads on the wall and a ton of weapons like fucking swords and daggers and like old guns. Did you see the stuffed bear when they first walk in? It's got like a fucking dead goat hanging out of his mouth.
I did not.
It is cool.
Man, I would feel so fucking weird if I was Grace in front of all these fucking rich stuck-up people. But even if they weren't rich stuck-up people, like this whole family that you just married into and you just met all these people. And when he's like, this room's for the family only, and opens up the door and they make her walk in first. God, man, that'd be horrible. I'd be like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and she's like dumbfounded when she walks in to see, it's one thing to see the dead animals on the wall, but the walls are also filled with weapons, tons of weapons. So yeah, that could make somebody really uncomfortable pretty quickly. On a side note, while all this is going on, you can see that Daniel is having a bit of a hard time with all this, and you can tell that he doesn't really want to be there at all. So Tony, the dad, stands at the head of the table and begins to tell the story of the family and ultimately why they play the game. So the story goes, during the Civil War, his great-grandfather started a printing shop that made playing cards. Years later, it expanded into sporting goods and board games. Once Tony took it over, they purchased 4 professional sports teams, leading them to become even more rich. He then says that some may call all this good fortune luck, but it is a little more than that. He then pulls out a very old box and explains that before his great-grandfather started the print shop, he was a merchant seaman. And one day he met a man named Mr. LaBelle, and Mr. LaBelle made a deal with him that if he could solve the mystery of the box, he would finance any endeavor of the grandfather's choosing. Obviously, he was able to solve it, which financed his printing shop, eventually leading the family into riches. Then Tony says ever since then, when the family gets a new addition, they place a blank card into the puzzle box, where the then new member of the family pulls the card out, allowing Mr. LaBelle to decide what game they are all to play. So as Grace picks up the old box, we hear it clicking and gears turning. It then stops and the card slightly pops out of the front. Grace pulls the card free, looks at it, and begins to chuckle. Now, while this is happening, the whole family, especially Alex, are staring at her intensely. Like, what the fuck does this card say? As she laughs, she turns the card around to show everyone where we see it says hide and seek. She kind of giggles and asks if they are really going to play this game. The whole room goes completely silent, and the looks on Alex and Daniel's face are of shock. Grace quickly picks up on this and asks if everything is okay. Alex tries to play it off, where Grace asks who hides, and Tony informs her that she is the one who hides while the rest of the family tries to find her.
Yeah, you can tell the atmosphere. Everybody went from like joking and happy and kind of just normal to the second that she said hide and seek. Everybody looked very concerned.
Oh yeah, the whole like air changed in the room. It got real heavy real quick.
Yeah, I if I was her, I would have definitely picked up on. I would have asked my husband that I was just marrying, like, why does everybody seem so fucking concerned?
Yeah, I don't think they would have told her anyway, though.
No, they wouldn't have, but I would have definitely picked up more. I mean, she just kind of nonchalantly is like, okay, well, I guess we're going to play hide and seek.
So while everyone stands up, Alex whispers in her ear to meet him in the bedroom. We then cut to a scene where Tony is explaining the rules to Grace, which is basically, She can hide anywhere in the house. They will count to 100 and then attempt to find her. Grace then brings up all of the cameras in the house, to which Tony tells her that they only play the games as they would have played them back in the day, aka like no technology. Grace asks how she can win, to which Tony tells her that if she manages to stay hidden till dawn, she would be the winner, which causes Grace to comically laugh out loud, saying basically, "There's no fucking way I'm going to stay in a hiding spot until morning on my wedding night." Because she's trying to fuck, remember?
Yeah, or literally do anything else
Anything
other
else.
than hide the
Yeah.
entire wedding night.
So we then hear the hide and seek song begin playing throughout the whole house as Grace runs up the stairs with a big smile on her face. We also get a quick glimpse of Emily and Fetch's two sons being put to bed by one of the house servants. We then see Tony passing each member of the family like different weapons from off the wall. Helene gets a fucking medieval axe, which she seems really happy about. I'm pretty sure that's probably the only time she smiles in the whole movie. We see that some family members are upset about this game and some are pretty excited. If you haven't seen this movie or haven't caught on yet, the way the game works is the family has until dawn to find and kill Grace. But if she manages to survive until dawn, then the family loses, and well, we don't really know for sure at this point what happens if they lose, which becomes important later on. But yeah, they got to kill her, and she doesn't know any of this stuff yet, though.
Yeah, the first time I seen this, they pass out all those weapons. I'm like, are they for real about to hunt and kill her? Like, holy shit. It makes sense why they chose hide and seek. Because nobody's obviously ever made it till dawn. Hide and seek is technically a game that you can't win. Like
Yeah.
you can't win a game of hide and seek. All the other games that they mentioned that had been played before were all board games that you could definitely win. So yeah, I thought it was I was a little confused on why it was hide and seek, because the family's like rich from board games. I figured it would have been a board game, but it makes sense.
So the mom, Becky, she gets a bow and arrow. Emily happily gets a pistol. And her husband gets a really old crossbow, which is fucking hilarious because he's like, how the fuck do I use a crossbow? And it's not even like a new crossbow. It's like the first ever crossbow. It probably weighs like 30 pounds. It's like a solid chunk of wood. So we then see that the family all have their weapons and they're ready to go. And as the song is about to end, Grace hides in the dumbwaiter. The family then heads out into the house to look for Grace. Alex decides that he's not really interested in killing his brand new wife and he stays in the game room, where Tony and Becky assign Daniel's wife Charity to watch the door. At first it seems like Alex is just sitting in the game room sulking, but really, he is just waiting for the family members to all leave, and as soon as he thinks the coast is clear, we see him use a secret door out of the game room and into an old brick hallway. Yeah, so this comes into play a lot, but this house has like a ton of secret doors. Well, I guess they're not really secret. He says earlier, like he calls them like the servant door or something. I guess old houses may have had separate doors for the help. I don't know. I've
Not
never
old
been in a
houses,
mansion.
maybe old fucking super wealthy mansion.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's a way maybe for them to get to one side of the house to the other, or anywhere in between without actually walking through the house.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
can't have the maids walking through your house.
Yeah, maybe maybe that's what it's for. I don't know. So Charity then goes into the game room. Honestly, man, it kind of sounded like she wanted to fuck him when she went in that game room. That's the kind of vibe I got. Did you even get that? That's just me.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. I was too busy thinking of myself in this situation of how in the fuck is it fair that we're playing hide and seek in y'all's house, and I gotta hide until dawn.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
that's
it's a good thing it's
unwinnable.
not in a regular house because they would have found her pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank God it's a huge house.
you couldn't really play hide and seek in a regular house. Man, 6 people.
I mean, you
try
could.
playing
You
hide
could.
and
It would
seek in
just.
this house.
You could. It would just end really quickly. But yeah, she goes in there, and this is where she discovers that Alex is missing. So after a while of hiding, Grace says fuck this and gets out of the dumbwaiter. And at this time, one of the hot young nannies starts looking for one of the kids. Alex grabs Grace from behind and they hide from the nanny. And right before the nanny finds them hiding behind the bed, we hear a gunshot and the nanny falls to the ground. As Grace looks around the corner, she sees the nanny has been shot through the eye and is laying on the floor dying. Emily screams down the hallway, "I got her," in a very excited tone. This shit is fucking hilarious. The family runs into the room and they're like, "What the fuck, Emily? Like, you shot the fucking nanny." Like, I think one of them even says, like, "Does she look like she's wearing a white wedding dress?"
Yeah, I don't know how you fuck that up. They have
Oh, it's great
different
though.
color hair. I mean, you can't really miss somebody in a wedding dress. And these are the maids that live in the house
Yeah,
that you live in. Like I mean, I don't know how you could possibly mess that up. I think the
it's
funniest
Emily.
part though is the dad. Him always like trying to he's like the only one, everybody else is like, she's a fucking idiot. And he's always like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, princess, it's okay.
Uh-huh. They then talk about how they can't kill Grace, that they have to wound her because they need her to be alive so they can kill her in the ritual. Daniel asks if this counts though, where Helene says no, it doesn't fucking count. It has to be the bride. Tony and Helene then decide to move the body when we then hear Tony say under his breath, "Damn, she was my favorite." So after this, Alex grabs Grace and tells her that he has to get her out of here. She then asks like what the fuck is going on, and he tells her that she pulled the one bad card and his family now thinks that they have to kill her before sunrise. They then go through the secret door and into like this service tunnel, the servant tunnel thing. We then see Emily run back into the room and look into the mirror and say, "No more fuck ups. You're a winner." As she does another huge line off of her, a huge line of coke off of her hand.
And she eats more of it off of
Yeah.
her upper lip.
Uh,
Yeah,
we,
if I was Grace, I wouldn't have came out so soon. As serious as this family takes fucking playing games.
I think she just wanted to be over so she could go,
Yeah, I think she
be with her
thinks it's
husband.
stupid, but you know, these these people take their rich games very serious. Also, if she has to be alive, these seem like some pretty lethal weapons. Like, what if
Yeah,
she was accidentally killed? Like, does the whole it's just the whole family fucked? They're all gonna die
yeah,
because
I don't
somebody
know.
because
Because
Emily
Emily,
shot her in the
yeah, that'd be
fucking
Emily.
face.
We also see Emily's husband, Finch. He's hiding in the bathroom watching a YouTube video called Getting to Know Your Crossbow.
I'm not gonna lie. If I was in his situation and I was handed something I didn't know how to
Same.
work, I'd be in there Googling that shit too.
Yeah, that's great. Alex then tells Grace that the house is on lockdown currently, but he has an idea to get her out. He tells her to head down to the hallway until she reaches the service kitchen while he goes to the security room and unlocks all the doors. Alex then leaves and we see Grace put on her yellow Converses and rip off the bottom of her wedding dress because she means business now.
This is like they have the whole conversation where he kind of explains to her what's happening, and he he makes the comment like, "Well, you wanted me to propose," which is like the worst comment you could have ever made in that situation. Like,
Yeah,
why? She's like, why didn't you at least tell me? And he's like, well, you wanted me to propose.
yeah, this is his fault. Like, I understand he's trying to paint it like he was backed into a corner, either have her or get married to her. But, he totally forgets the option where he could have fucking told her about his family and what would happen if they got married. And then, hey, like, maybe after you told her that, maybe she would be like, okay, well, let's just not get married because that sounds fucking crazy.
Yeah,
But yeah, hiding it from her, there's like no excuse.
yeah. That's why I asked what his intentions were, knowing her for 18 months. Like at one point, did he fall in love with her after the point of deciding to marry her? Like if you knew that this was a possibility, and he knows because he was a kid when the last one happened, why would you ever fucking get married?
Well,
And it makes me wonder what Grace's intentions were, if she was giving him an ultimatum at 18 months of knowing somebody. And that's pretty early on to already be like about to walk out the door. I wonder if she was kind of in it for the money. And
I think she was in it for the family.
I wonder, well, no, because the family's awful. I mean,
No,
he tells her that from the beginning, like all the family's awful. You just have to deal with them for this, pretty much this night, because they don't live in the house. And I wonder if he was so sure that she was going to leave if he didn't propose. I wonder if he knew she was in it for the money. Or he just didn't know.
I think that you're probably looking a little too deep into it. I don't think it's that complex. I think that she just wanted the family despite what he says. Like, she doesn't really care that he has a bad opinion, because she even promises the mom that she would bring him back to the family. She's cool with that. And I think he just was rolling the dice. Like, the chances of her drawing the hide and seek cards, very slim. It doesn't happen very often. And I figure he's just like, well, to keep her and to make her happy, we'll roll the dice and everything will probably be okay. And I think that's just really just about it.
I just feel like if you really loved somebody that much and you knew that this was a possibility, why he wouldn't have just told her, hey, we can't get married because of this.
Because a lot of people do dumb shit.
Probably wouldn't have believed him. She probably would have thought that he was just making some shit up to not get married, and then left.
I mean, he's just a character that is dumb about stuff like that. It's like, I mean, I don't really think there's too much deep stuff to it. It's not really to ponder. I think just it is what it is. You see pretty much how they wrote it. That's really it. So Grace then exits the tunnel and literally runs right into Daniel and Tony carrying the nanny's body, and Helene holding her big giant ass axe. Grace turns to run in the opposite direction, but is cut off by Emily, who without hesitation just starts busting caps. Grace ducks the shots as Emily just like loses control of the gun and it falls to the floor, allowing Grace to just run past her. Tony yells, "God damn it, Emily," and Emily just starts crying, saying, "I don't know what I'm doing." Dude, this actress plays the like perfect spoiled dumb rich girl. Like, she nails it.
Yeah, she's pretty awful at everything.
Yes. Grace is now hiding in another room when Daniel walks in holding a gun. They are both surprised to see each other, and after a brief pause, Daniel just walks past her as he says that he just came to get a drink. Grace is like freaking the fuck out, and Daniel then says that he has to yell for the others, but he just doesn't want to be the one to kill her. He then gives her a 10-second head start as she takes off running, as he starts counting the slowest 10 seconds ever. He eventually yells and everybody comes running, and when they arrive, they find Daniel just sitting there drinking whiskey. Charity then tells Tony that Alex got out, and Daniel informs the group that Emily shot the nanny, to which Fitch says, "She was my favorite." Emily then cries because she forgot her gun somewhere. I wonder what that nanny does to make all the guys like she's their favorite. What's she doing?
She's fucking all of them.
I think she's fucking all of them.
And then, like Tony said, that was his favorite, but they run into a maid, the third maid they run into, and she's like, "I'm not even a maid. He just likes how I dance."
Yeah.
So I'm like, Tony was fucking all the maids, apparently.
What's going on in this place? So Finch then gladly offers Emily his crossbow, to which she eagerly takes it from him. And as she is holding it, it goes off and shoots another one of the hot servants girls in the head.
Why in the fuck would you hand her a crossbow?
Dude, I love this part though.
I would have gave her like a butter knife.
She immediately starts getting upset. She like throws a temper tantrum over accidentally killing this woman. Man, so then Charity asked if that counts, and this sets off Helene. But every time she tries to go on this rant about it, the servant girl cuts her off with her dying gasp for air. Helene finally gets pissed and just walks over and just cuts her fucking head off with an axe. This whole scene is fucking great. I love this whole entire thing.
It's funny.
It's so good.
It's definitely funny.
After arguing for a bit, they decide to turn on the security cameras and use them to find Grace. So meanwhile, Grace is running through the house where she comes across an old rifle with an ammo belt full of these like huge ass bullets. She grabs the gun, the ammo, and this is where we get the iconic shot of her in her yellow Converses, ripped up wedding dress with the bullets slung across her body while holding this big ass gun. She looks like such a fucking badass here. So she looks into this big ass mirror of herself and she says, Jesus. But according to Radio Silence and Samara Weaving herself, they kept making her do this scene over and over again. So she eventually started to have like some fun with it. And she would kind of say different things. And on one of the takes, she doesn't say Jesus. She actually says the word cheeses. And after Samara seen the completed film, she went back and told Radio Silence, you guys realize you used the cheeses version. So when you watch the movie, if you actually pay attention next time, she doesn't say Jesus. She just says cheeses. Yeah, and they totally did not fucking notice. Out of all the takes they did, that's the one they picked. And they laugh about it now. But yeah, she totally just slipped that right in there. So Grace finally makes it to the kitchen, but Alex still hasn't unlocked all the doors. So she attempts to just shoot the lock, but the gun doesn't fire. The butler then walks in and she hides behind the island. Alex then gets the doors unlocked, and after getting the gun loaded, Grace stands up and points it at the butler. She tries to shoot him, but the bullets aren't real. He then takes the gun from her, but she decks him with the fucking hot teapot. He then grabs a knife and attempts to stab her, and she then takes off running back through the house.
Bro, what kind of fucking bullet was that she put in that gun?
I think that's for the elephant gun. I think that's what that is.
What caliber is that round? I mean,
I
that
don't
thing
know.
is massive.
I have no idea. Thing is massive though.
I fucking hate this butler.
Oh
I
god,
hate
he's the
him.
worst. Like I like the fam, like they're stupid funny. Him, not funny. Don't like him.
I don't understand why the maids are still in the house during this game, because they don't know what's. Well, I guess the maids do know what's going on.
I don't know.
Well, I think that the first maid was like in the room with the kids.
Yeah, she was supposed to
And-
watch the kids.
I feel like the only maid that didn't know what was going on was the one that wasn't an actual maid. The butler clearly knows what's going on.
Oh, he's
Why
into this.
is he helping the family do this? Like, isn't that cheating? Wouldn't that be like cheating in the game if
Yeah.
somebody not in the family killed her?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he gets a big bonus for helping.
He gets a big boner for kissing ass is what
Oh,
he gets.
yeah,
Like, he is a fucking ass kiss.
He's like almost like the Jon Snow, where he's like in the family, but he's not a part of the family. Like he'll never be one of them.
He's like in
He's also not
It's
heroic,
like in
so
Django Unchained, the house slave,
yeah,
servant,
yeah,
kissing ass.
yeah, the Samuel L. Jackson character.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
That's him.
So back in the control room, Tony and Daniel break down the door. Alex almost strangles his dad before letting him go when Tony then knocks him out from behind. Grace tries to hide in the dumbwaiter again, but finds the last of the hot house servants hiding in there. And this bitch says fuck Grace and starts yelling for the family. Grace then accidentally hits the dumbwaiter button, which closes the doors and kills her.
And that's what she gets.
Snitches
That's
get stitches.
Instant karma.
So the family then takes a now unconscious Alex up to his room where they handcuff him to the bed. And this is where we learn that the scene from the beginning where Charles got killed was Helene's husband, and she was the one in the wedding dress screaming no. Also, Helene says that she believes that Alex is the one meant to lead the family because he is the only one that has ever actually seen Mr. LaBelle in the empty chair. So when she gets her axe and she leaves the room, man, you know, it like clicked in my head. You know who she looks like? Dr. Loomis from Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Who?
Helene.
Aunt Helene?
Yeah. Her and Dr. Loomis from Rob Zombie's Halloween could be brother and sister. They look just like to me. They have the same hair for sure.
Yeah. I didn't take him as such an unpleasant fucking person, no. Like, he's not a great character.
No,
but
I mean, they
he's
don't have
like-
the same
he's
like
awful
attitude, but they look the same. They look
She's
very
like-
much the same.
She looks like she would be Cruella DeVille's sister.
I can't remember what Cruella DeVille looks like, actually.
Well, no, like, not look-wise, just act like an old hag bitch.
If Cruella DeVille and Dr. Loomis from Rob Zombie's Halloween fucked, they would have her.
Cruella DeVille has the half-white, half-black hair, and she looks like
That's
an old
right.
bitch,
That's
like
right.
her.
Isn't she real skinny? She's like bony.
Yeah, she's like,
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, she's always wearing, like, fur coats and shit, like a rich bitch.
Yep.
Like, this is Cruella's even bitchier sister.
Yeah.
That wears the coats of people's skin instead of puppies.
We also see Fitch sitting by himself on his phone, looking up if pacts with the devil, real or bullshit.
That's funny.
So Grace finally made it out of the house, and she ends up in this little barn where we see a bunch of goats. She then hears someone coming and hides, but she soon discovers that it's one of the little kids from earlier. She pops out and tries to comfort him. I guess she assumes that he's like scared and doesn't know what's going on, but instead he points a pistol at her and shoots her in the hand. He tries to shoot her again, but the gun doesn't fire, and she just knocks him the fuck out. Like, she straight up Mike Tyson's this kid.
Yeah, I would have knocked that little fucker out too if he shot a hole in my hand.
God damn, yeah, I would whoop his ass for sure, kid or
I would
not.
be so fucking angry by the pain of having a fucking hole that big blown in my hand. No doubt.
Yeah, no joke.
And then I would have told myself, like, that kid was gonna kill you. So it's okay that you.
I don't think I would have had to even
that
tell
you-
myself anything.
It's okay that you punched him and then dragged him over and curb stomped him. It's okay.
She then gets jump scared by a goat, causing her to fall backwards into this like basement thing where she lands on a ton of decomposing goat bodies. Obviously, they sacrifice a lot of goats here. She also finds the skeletal remains of Charles. So they didn't even bother to get rid of his body,
This is where they throw all of the sacrifices at.
apparently. She then climbs up the old shitty ladder, but the ladder breaks, leaving her hanging from the top. And when she attempts to pull herself up, a nail goes through her hand. It actually goes like right through the bullet hole, making that even worse.
Yeah, that's one of those cringe moments where you see it. I think we talked about this last episode or the episode before.
Yep.
Like, we can watch somebody get sawed in half and it's fine, but then there's these small things like a nail through the hand, or like an Achilles tendon getting cut or something like that. That's just super cringy, and you know it's coming when they show the nail.
I love when she reaches the top and she looks over at the kid and she says, "You little fucker."
Yeah,
That's great.
That's accurate.
Yep.
One thing though I will say is there's no fucking way, I don't care how bad that shit hurt, I would not be screaming with an entire family of weapons hunting after me.
So we then see Charity just standing out back smoking a cigarette when she spots Grace running across the field. She then aims her spear gun and says, "I got you, bitch." She drops her cig and she fires it, missing Grace by a mile and hitting some kind of fucking bird in a tree instead.
Bro, Charity definitely missed by a lot, but she did not miss with the confidence.
No.
I mean, she was 10 out of 10. She was going to hit that shot right between the fucking eyes. It was no doubt.
She got a bird.
She does not lack confidence.
So Grace finally escapes by squeezing through a fence as she spots a car coming down the road. She runs out and gets the car to stop, but before she gets a chance to say anything, the driver tells her to get the fuck out of the road and peels off. A very upset Grace then says,
"What the fucking wrong with you? You fucking animal, you piece of shit, little tiny dick licker fucking asshole fucking eye! Fucking rich people!"
I would say I feel that way every day.
Yeah, I would have said all of that a lot quieter. I would not be screaming out in front of this house. But yes, I would have probably said most of what she said.
Yeah,
at
what an
least in my
asshole.
head.
You get a woman who's covered in blood, looking fucked up, runs out, and you're just like, "Get the fuck out of the road."
It makes you wonder if this has happened before.
Probably.
Like, how many of those maids that Tony's fucking and had to run out some domestic violence situations. They're just like, this is a common night
I
for
mean,
the
it could be like
household.
a Jeffrey Epstein. There's human trafficking going on.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Grace is beating the shit out of herself at this point in the movie, though.
Yeah.
Most of her injuries are self-inflicted. She has managed to accidentally fall like 10 feet into a hole of bodies, stuck her hand through a nail. Granted, she had a hole there already. She busted her ass trying to break this iron rod off of this gate and then cut herself up getting through it. Like, at this point in the movie, she looks like she's been through hell. Like, you know, at the end of the final girl at the end of like House of a Thousand Corpses, her hair's all fucked up and shit. This is what she looks like. But if you think about it, other than the shot through the hand, she's done all of this shit to herself.
Yeah, but it's like trying to get away from people that are going to do much worse. So I give her a little credit. At least she's fucking
You
taking
like
it.
her. You really like her.
I'm blinded
You got
by
a
love.
crush. You got a
I'm
crush.
blinded by
It's very
love.
clear she was in it for the money. She's like, you
No.
better fucking marry me. And obviously this conversation came up because they're 18 months on their wedding day. So who knows how long they've been planning it and then how long they were engaged. And obviously before they got engaged, this was a conversation that she wanted to be married. So she's, I mean, a year at tops. And she's like, you got to fucking marry me or I'm out. Bro, you're blinded. You're blinded by the looks.
So the butler starts chasing her down in his car, and while that is happening, the family gets word that Grace has officially escaped the estate, which sends Tony into a panic. Daniel seems kind of relieved that all this is coming to a close. Becky tells everyone to calm down and instructs Daniel and Emily to take the 3 dead maids to the goat pit and informs Emily to please not accidentally kill anyone else. While dumping the bodies, Emily asks Daniel about the last time the hide-and-seek card was pulled when he was a kid, and he says that he remembers everything about it. Because if you remember, Daniel was the one who got Charles killed, which obviously greatly affected him probably his whole life.
Yeah, I think this is why he's kind of an alcoholic and kind of the black sheep of the family.
But yeah, he tells her that he tried to protect Alex by putting him in the closet, and Emily says that he has always looked after his little brother. He disagrees, saying that he shouldn't have let him marry Grace, and he thinks that they should all die for what they have done. To which Emily gets upset because, she has kids. And speaking of kids, Georgie finally wakes up from his coma after Grace laid him out like a dusty rug. Emily rushes to help him up and asks him why he is outside, where he informs them that he followed Grace here and shot her with a gun. Which you can tell this greatly bothers Daniel. Emily hugs him and says, I'm so proud of you, and we can see like the wheels turning in Daniel's head, because if you remember, this is what Becky said to him when he snitched out Charles. So we got basically the cycle starting all over again. The butler finally catches up with Grace, where he jumps out of the car and tries to shoot her with a tranq gun. She manages to best him in their wrestling match though and strangles him with a piece of her dress. She then hops in his car and drives off, where she attempts to use the OnStar to dial 911. A lame fuck named Justin gets on the line and she informs them that someone is trying to kill her and she needs the police. His reaction to this is almost as if she's like having car trouble or something. He then informs her that the car has been reported stolen and he has to shut the car down remotely. She begins freaking out and he tells her it is company policy and the police are on their way. We then see the car just roll to a stop in the middle of the road. He then asks if there's anything else he can help her with, and she tells him, yes, you can go fuck yourself. And he says, okay, thanks for using TripSafe, have a good night. She then tries to just wait for the police, but a few seconds later, the butler breaks the glass and shoots her with the tranq gun, knocking her out. She then wakes up in the back of the car where she sees the butler FaceTiming the family, telling them he is almost home. He then cranks the stereo to fucking 10 with classical music, I guess in celebration.
I fucking hate this guy and his stupid white gloves he's still
Yeah.
wearing through all this. I was so pissed. I'm like, well, I thought she killed him. Like, she strangled him. Apparently, she quit too soon.
She did, because if you actually look close, when she's backing the car up, he actually gets back up. So yeah, and obviously he's the one who probably reported the car stolen immediately.
Yeah, but that was a quick report.
So Tony and Becky then notice through the video that Grace is awake in the back seat. They try to warn the butler, but he is too busy going hard on the Beethoven mixtape.
God, I mean, there couldn't be a worse shit stain in this fucking movie. I mean, this dude is so stoked to kiss ass and be like, I saved the day.
Yep.
That he is going to blast Beethoven, some like opera music in excitement. God, like, I just want to punch this guy's face so bad.
Yeah, I bet you he like eats crumpets, whatever a crumpet is.
I don't even know what a crumpet is.
It's
but
like
yes,
some
he
like
does.
poshy rich English people eat, I think.
He's a beef Wellington person.
Oh, yes, he is. That's his new name, Beef Wellington, in the rest of the movie. She then kicks the shit out of him in the head, causing him to wreck the car. Sometime later, Grace manages to crawl out of the flipped over vehicle, but Daniel comes walking up to her holding a gun. She tries to appeal to Daniel's humanity by begging for him to let her go. He says he is too weak and he is not like his brother Alex. He then knocks her out with the gun, and we see Tony walk out from behind a tree. They then grab Grace's body and carry it back to the mansion, with Tony saying they must hurry because they only have an hour left to complete the sacrifice. Next, we see the family getting dressed in their Satan-worshiping robes, and they're lighting their candles. Finch is like slapping himself, saying, you got this, don't be a bench fit. And Alex is
have to Google some confidence there, buddy.
I wonder if he has to say that often. Don't be a bitch, Fitch. You got this.
He's probably said it before. Seems to have that down pretty good.
And Alex is attempting to free himself from his handcuffs. Dude, Charity looks so fine in her Satan robe. I dig it.
You gonna try to tell me she's a good person too?
I mean, she's all right.
She's all right. She wasn't it. I mean, she had a hard life.
She didn't kill anybody yet.
Yeah, so they whenever they first, her and Daniel have that interaction, she gets so mad at Daniel. I was kind of confused that was his wife, because she gets so mad at him after he kind of lets her get away, and she's like, "Can you at least take this serious? Can you at least act like you care?" As if it was her family that he married into.
I think she's more like his family than he is.
Yeah, and she explains that he actually did tell her before they got married. He gave her the option.
Smart move.
And yes, very smart move. He definitely Alex should have took after his brother on that one. But yeah, apparently she jumped at the risk. Yeah. Like, she was willing to die.
She grew
didn't
up
give
poor.
a fuck. Yeah,
and she was like, so what? We got to fucking possibly kill somebody, every like 30 years? Whoop-de-doo.
And she's super into the killing.
Yeah.
Like, she wants to be the one to kill. She is 100% fits into the family, for sure. Way more than Daniel does.
So next we see that Grace has been strapped to this like big ritual table, and all the members of the family are standing around her. They are drinking from like this gold chalice, and they're speaking Latin. Tony picks up the ceremonial dagger and holds it high in the air. You can see that Helene is so fucking into this shit. Like,
her pussy got wet for the first time in 30 years.
I was literally going to say, like, this is the most moist her vag has been in 40 years. Literally, that was my note.
Is that the second week in a row that's happened?
But yeah, Tony holds the knife above his head, and he goes to yell, "Hail Satan!" But before he can finish it, he pauses for a moment, then grabs his stomach in pain. We then see everyone start to puke up blood and hold their stomachs in pain, except Daniel. He then pulls his hood back and begins to untie Grace. Helene then yells that he has poisoned them, and Tony tries to attack him but falls to the ground. Him and Grace then run out of the room, leaving everyone else behind puking. Also at the same time, we see that Alex has finally broken free of his handcuff and is running downstairs. Grace and Daniel then get cut off by Charity holding a gun, demanding he move out of the way. He puts Grace behind him and attempts to talk Charity down, but it is a failed attempt because she does not hesitate to shoot Daniel in the fucking neck. This
Yeah.
sends Grace over the edge though, and she fucks Charity up. She takes the gun from her and she knocks her the fuck out.
Yeah, it's very clear that Charity married Daniel for the money.
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
She doesn't even let him explain.
Nope.
She's just like, nope, you're going to get in my way, you're going to die too.
You would think if she really cared, like she'd just shoot him in the leg and obviously he'd be out of the way then. But she's like, I'm going for the kill shot.
Yeah, I
Don't
don't
care.
think she really cares for him.
No.
And maybe she did prior to them getting married, but it's very clear that she was in it for the money. And she's like locked in now. She's
Yeah.
like, we're married. I could do away with you.
Yeah, I mean, she'd probably just, get his money or whatever.
Family doesn't like you anymore anyway. They like me.
Family picked me. You're out. She then tries to help Daniel, who is most certainly bleeding to death, and he knows it is too late, and he tells her to just go. Rest in peace, King. Daniel was a good character. She then runs into Tony, who talks a bunch of shit and then says he doesn't need the altar to sacrifice her. He will do it right here in the living room. And as he walks up to her, Grace gets her 4th KO of the night because without hesitation, she lays him the fuck out with the lantern. And after she hits him with the lantern, she throws it down and runs off where we see it burst open and catch the curtains on fire. Grace then ends up in another room where she is confronted by Becky. It's almost like she's going room to room and fighting the bosses. Like a level.
She's got to get to the final boss.
So she gets to Becky and they start throwing down. And Becky eventually slams Grace to the floor and begins choking her. Grace then pulls on the tablecloth, dropping the old wooden card box on the floor next to her. She then grabs it and straight up beats Becky's fucking head in with it. Grace has officially become savage as fuck at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, man, we get a lot of CGI in this movie. Damn, I wish they would have gave us some more practical effects. Because they could have done that one really cool. There's quite a few. I think the biggest miss for practical effects and just for the overall scariness of the movie was the dancing maid that got in that little elevator.
Yeah.
What is it called? Like, they missed a great opportunity to cut her in half instead of just kind of blood coming out of her mouth and it not really being her cut in half. Yeah, man, I hate that. That's my biggest hang up of this movie is that we didn't get to see Becky's brains splattering all over the place from this box.
So as she is turning Becky's face into meatloaf, Alex walks in and completely stunned by what he is seeing. This would be the perfect time for 3 Days Grace Animal I Have Become start playing. So they both say that they are sorry to each other, which I just want to say, Grace doesn't have a goddamn thing to be sorry for. It's all Alex.
Except making him marry her when he didn't want to.
Well,
because
we don't know if that happened.
Because he didn't want to go through this.
We don't. But
No,
you're just gonna
no,
take Alex's word.
No,
He's not trustworthy.
This has been a conversation when he says, "Hey, you wanted to get married."
That's gaslighting.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Nah.
Yeah, sure.
But then Alex kind of asks if she will leave him after all this. She doesn't really answer, which is kind of an answer. He then places his hand on her face like lovingly, and he grabs her other side of her face with his other hand and begins like squeezing her head. And as she begs for him to stop, this motherfucker yells for his piece of shit family, or what's left of them anyway, and tells them that he's got her. What a goddamn piece of cat poop this guy is.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, I will say, and you know, he's gonna die.
Good. He should.
But even if somehow he didn't die, she wouldn't stay with him anyway. You know, he's kind of put his whole family at risk trying to save her, and now she's like, no, I'm not gonna be with you.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be with somebody either that didn't tell me a lie, like didn't tell me the truth, this big of a truth.
Well, I agree with that. That was a big fuck up. He definitely shit the bed on that one. He is the final boss. And it's interesting because he is the chosen one.
He is. He's the
As
Luke
as
Skywalker.
as Aunt Bitchface mentioned earlier in the movie, that he is supposed to actually take over the family
Mhm.
because he is the only one that's seen Sir
LeBear.
fucking rich as
Yeah,
fuck
LeBear.
in the chair. I guess that's like when whoever sees him is who ends up kind of running the family, being in control. Because that seemed to be a consensus thing when her and Tony were talking about it.
Well, Tony
That
thinks he
they
made it
thought
up.
that he was the good one. Well, he thinks at this point. It doesn't seem like he thought that before. But
Yeah, but at this point,
at
yeah, it's
this
probably
point, he's
different.
like, yeah, well, maybe he just had it. Was dreaming as a kid. He
Oh.
was 5 years old. But I think everybody had an idea when he was growing up that he was going to be the one to take over.
Yeah, good point. So the fucking house is burning down at this point. The sun's coming up. Daniel and Becky are dead. Alex is evil now. They got Grace held down on the table again, and they are taking another shot at this satanic ritual. But this time, Alex is going to be the one to stab Grace with the dagger. Did you catch the blood stain on Alex's shirt?
No.
So it is in the shape of a human heart, and it is right over his heart. Thought that was interesting.
Didn't catch that. Was it just like blood splatter?
It's blood splatter, yeah. From
Is it obviously in the shape of a heart?
It
'Cause
is.
A heart's not a very defined
it's
shape.
obvious, and it was done on purpose, but it's actually blood splatter from his brother. So they do all the Latin again, and Helene leads the Hail Satan stuff because she's all about it. Alex looks down at Grace for a moment, stares into her eyes, and says Hail Satan before stabbing her. But she manages to move a little bit right before, and the blade goes into her shoulder. She then yanks the knife out because she's a bad bitch now and accepts no pain, jumps off the table, and threatens to stab anyone who comes close. I wish she would cut Alex's pecker off with that dagger. Hail Satan,
and
you
then,
dickless fuck.
And then get on her knee and propose to you.
I mean, that'd be cool. I'd be fine with that.
Bro, what fucking sound came out of her? Like, whenever she gets stabbed,
man.
and she rolls off the table, she sounds like a fucking goat screaming.
Yeah.
Like,
She has a very
surprised you
particular
didn't
scream.
take this. Well, I mean, I almost feel like they did it on purpose. Like, she doesn't sound human in that moment. Like I said, she sounds like a goat or something being sacrificed.
But she's kind of very animalistic at this point.
Yeah, and the sound is, like I said, it sounds like a goat being sacrificed, which I wonder if that was done on purpose, considering all the sacrifices they've made. I mean, it sounds like a goat.
I don't know.
Like, for sure. I'm surprised you didn't take that sound, but it was kind of creepy. I was like, what the fuck was that? I honestly thought something else in the movie happened. I was like, did that come from her?
So Helene then notices the sun has come up and rips open the curtain. Finch and Tony duck down to avoid the sunlight. Like are they fucking vampires now? Like what? I don't understand what was up with the sunlight.
Well, I think that this has been the story that's told about the other family who had made a deal with LeBear, because they said, the story in the papers were that they died in a house fire, but something a lot worse happened to them. So I wonder if the story of, like, as soon as the sunlight hits them, they implode or something.
I don't know. I thought it was funny though because they're the only two that do it. So at this point, they're all just like standing there waiting to explode, but nothing happens. Finch then stands up and is like, I knew it. I knew it was all bullshit. And Tony, like everyone's looking at Tony and Tony's just speechless. Like nobody knows what to say. Because, throughout the movie, there's a lot of debate on whether or not this is real and whether or not if they don't kill her, if anything's actually going to happen. And at this point, they're all like, oh, fuck, maybe we have been, wrong this whole entire time and we've been killing people and we really didn't have to. And now we feel like fucking idiots.
Yeah, it seems like it's really the ones who are married into the family. Like Finch and Charity are both like they're walking out when they first get the weapons, and he makes that comment to her like,
Should we just bail?
Just get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here. And you could tell she clearly just wanted to kill somebody. She didn't give a fuck if it was real or not.
This also goes back to Charles, because when they're dragging him off, he's like, you don't have to do this. Nothing is really going to happen.
Yeah.
So it seems like there is debate amongst family members of if it's real or not.
Yeah, the only story or the only thing they know is the story that they've heard about the other family that had apparently had a deal like this, and they broke the curse and apparently died in some horrific way. But you would imagine that happened a long time ago. So it's really like the younger generation, which is most of them, except the three olds.
Yeah.
They're all like not sure what's going to happen. And my first thought when they didn't die is, seen that coming. And what the fuck are they going to do about Grace now? Like, you can't really let her live.
Yeah.
Even if the curse is fake, like you're all going to go to prison.
So Alex tries to talk to Grace, but she just growls at him. She's just at this point now. She doesn't even talk. She just growls. So everyone is just like, what the fuck do we do now? But Helene just can't let it go and decides to try to kill Grace anyway. She then picks up her medieval axe and screams, "The girl still dies," when suddenly she just explodes into a pink mist, splattering blood everywhere. And we get a shot of everyone's reaction, and there is just blood and chunks of her all over everybody. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. I remember that. Obviously, I knew what was coming this time watching it, but the first time we watched this, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, did she just fucking blow up? Is
Yeah.
everybody going to blow up?
And it looks awesome. The record from earlier, which is now kind of melted, just begins playing on its own. And we see Finch just explode, followed by Charity. Emily and her two sons then attempt to run away, but then we see 3 huge splats just happen in the doorway. It's great.
One splat slightly bigger
Yep.
than the other two.
There is just blood and chunks of human flesh everywhere at this point, and Grace just starts laughing her ass off. Tony then explodes right in front of Alex, covering Alex in his father's blood. Grace then looks right at him and laughs right in his face. I fucking love her snort. Girls who snort when they laugh, they're so attractive. Ladies, don't ever be ashamed of that.
Bro, you've got
snorted
a
up.
serious crush on this woman.
I-
This may be, out of all the episodes we've done, the biggest crush on a final girl you've had.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't remember her fucking name. Danielle Harris.
Oh, if she snorted when she laughed, it'd be super hot too.
No, but you like her, this girl, more than Danielle Harris. Oh God, I can't even believe you that. That's not. No, that's not even close.
No, it is close.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Danielle Harris is like the ultimate horror girl. She's been in so much. Like, she's literally made an entire career off horror, and she's way hotter. Just saying.
Oh, well, yeah. We'll agree to disagree. Alex begins begging her to stay with him, and he is so sorry. But she just begins walking away like he doesn't even exist. He then grabs her arm and says he doesn't want to die, when she spins around and says, "Neither did I, you selfish fuck." Alex seems to think that because he hasn't exploded yet, that he may be safe from the curse. She then pulls off her wedding ring and says she wants a divorce as she throws it at his chest. He then immediately explodes right in her face, covering her in blood and guts. I love the whole exploding body scene. It's awesome. It's super satisfying. It was a great way to kind of cap off this story. I love exploding bodies, and we got multiple exploding bodies here.
Yeah, I think it fits the movie really well with the horror comedy aspect. Like, you think the whole time, and they do it, they purposely kind of keep it under wraps of what's going to happen. Like, you
Yeah.
know it's something bad, but you don't know what it is.
Which is why you can't have a sequel.
And then what's the worst thing that you think could happen? Just blowing
Yeah,
up.
well,
You
you
just
wonder-
fucking implode.
You wonder, like, okay, if it is real, like, what is gonna happen? Are they gonna, like, turn to dust? Are they gonna explode? Are they gonna fucking, like, who knows? And then, honestly, they gave us this, and I was like, awesome. I love it.
So Alex seeing Mr. LeBay as a kid did mean he was going to take over. He was going to marry the girl that was going to beat the curse and live. And that would have made, that's why Alex didn't die until she said she wanted a divorce and took the ring off. That's why he was spared. So all Alex had to do was not turn on her at the very end. I think she would have probably seen that the reason that they were trying to kill her was true. She would have understood that a little bit because she does look down at them after they all blow up and she's like, damn, like they were telling the truth.
Yeah.
But I think she would have seen that and then seen Alex sacrificed his entire family to save her life. I think she would have stayed with them. And then he would have been the head of the family. He would have inherited everything and it would be these two running it. And now that she took the ring off, she's going to inherit everything. She's the only living. They're now married, and I think the second movie is going to be now she owns the curse. She beat the game. The curse passes to her.
Yeah, maybe. So the fireplace then shoots out a big puff of fire, and we get a quick glimpse of the ghost of Mr. LeBear as he nods at Grace in approval. She then stands silent for a moment, staring at the now empty chair, and then just says, fuck. She then grabs Becky's cigarette case as the flames burn the family's legacy of board games. We then get a cool shot of her walking through the house that is now engulfed in flames as the wedding march is played on guitar. She then steps out on the back porch of the mansion where she was married the day before, her wedding dress completely turned dark red from blood. She then sits down and lights a cigarette as the fire department arrives. One of the firemen runs over to her and asks what happened to her. She takes a drag from the cigarette and just says, in-laws. And that is the end of Ready or Not.
I love the ending. I love the fact that because I knew when they mentioned the dream and he was supposed to take over the family that was going to somehow be important. And it was. She beat the game. The rest of the family died, and it was just him and her. And now he was going to be the head of the family. Probably own the curse now, which is, I assume, what they're going to do in the sequel. And he did all that shit and then fucked everything up at the end. What a great ending.
Yeah. I'm glad that he fucking exploded.
I know you don't want anybody with Grace.
No,
I know.
honestly, I would have been totally fine with Daniel.
That would have been really fucked up.
For me,
Daniel's brother ends up fucking his.
Well, I mean, Alex has turned evil. I mean, that's what happens when you turn evil.
But he didn't turn evil until his brother died. I think that was part of why he did turn evil.
Yeah, and
his brother was the closest one in the family.
I think he thinks Grace killed Daniel.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. In thinking that, and now, the only person in the family that you were close to, that you actually liked, is dead. The woman that you just married, you're pretty sure killed him. But even aside from that, she's not going to be with you now. Like, she's going to leave you, and the rest of your family that you have left is going to die. And you're going to die too if that happens. I don't know, man. I may have flipped too.
I will say, though, I think that Samara Weaving and Adam Brody, who plays Daniel, I think they have far better chemistry than the guy who plays Alex. And I guess that's really not a big deal because Daniel spends kind of more time with Grace throughout the movie than necessarily Alex does, because Alex ends up fucking locked in the goddamn room for over half the movie. But I will say, like, when it comes to acting, I think they had much better chemistry than the guy who plays Alex. It didn't seem that believable of a couple to me, but
I didn't really get that. It's just, I mean, like you said, Alex is handcuffed to a bed almost the entire movie.
Yeah.
So we don't really get to see much of him. But we do see that he is willing to risk his whole entire family dying to save her. So, he's definitely, I don't think he married her for the wrong reasons, but I definitely think she may have married him for the wrong reasons. But like I said, I don't know. In that situation, if I was in his shoes, I may have turned on her at the end too.
All right, so 17 different versions of Grace's wedding dress was created by the costume designer Avery Plews to show the progress of Grace's night and how her clothes correspond with her attitude. If you can actually go and watch the making of on the DVD and stuff, and they actually show a bunch of these. And each dress was basically anytime she got some kind of injury or something major happened in the movie, they had a whole dress set up for that, and there ended up being a total of 17.
It's like a Freddy versus Jason's mask, all the
Yeah.
different damage masks
Yeah.
that they switch out through the movie, but it's a wedding dress.
So a lot of the film was filmed at Casa Loma in Toronto, Ontario. It is a designated heritage property and is a museum that is open to the public. You can take tours of the building and learn about its history. You can even walk through some of these secret passages. Many movies were filmed there, including Crimson Peak from 2015, The Pacifier from 2005, and the OG X-Men from 2000. I will say that I listened to, if you're really interested in this movie, check out Mike Flanagan has a podcast where he actually does multiple episodes with Radio Silence about this. And they talk about how difficult it was filming at this place because they weren't allowed to really touch anything, which made filming a movie hard.
Yeah.
That is why I use the dumbwaiter scene and stuff like that is CGI, because they weren't allowed to use like fake blood in this place like that. They weren't allowed to use real candles. Most of the furniture they could not touch. They could not move it. They actually talk about their set designer actually built like a fake wall. And so some of the scenes, they would actually just put this fake wall there to make it so you would see the same kind of hallway over and over again, but you wouldn't tell it was the same because they would just put this fake wall there and make it look a little different because they couldn't do any alterations to the set at all. And speaking of the set, every single place in this movie is a real place that you can go. The only set that was built for the film was the goat pit. Everything else is an actual real place. Yeah.
I love when movies do that, when they do they film stuff on an actual location instead of a sound stage, just built sets.
Yeah.
I do, however, wish they would have built sets for certain scenes in this movie. At least even if they had to model it off of the actual rooms, mainly for the CGI purposes.
So they filmed at a couple other places too, and one of them is going to be the very end scene with the explosions, but I'll explain that in a minute. Also, the tunnel, you see that, the servant tunnel that him and Alex and Grace have the kind of argument at, earlier in the movie about. That is like that brick tunnel. Okay, so that is not in a house. That is actually a public tunnel that anybody can go and visit. It's not in a house, it's outside. So really interesting.
Yeah, I will say, you mentioning Crimson Peak, that definitely
Yeah.
looks familiar. Yeah.
A lot of people will notice too, because the inside and the outside are two completely different places. And a lot of people will recognize the outside, especially where she's getting married, is the Billy Madison house. He, Adam Sandler kind of floats around in the fucking giant pool. Yeah, that's that.
But now, where was that?
It's also in Canada.
Another place.
Yeah, it's a very, very popular wedding place. Most people get married at that place. That's a kind of its main thing. So when it comes to the final showdown between Grace and the family, we see the family members one by one begin to explode. These scenes were almost entirely done with practical effects. They would use a mix of non-toxic fake blood mixed with chunks of fruit like bananas. Some scenes, like when Helene explodes in front of Charity, they would actually place the mixture in baggies and set it on this like tall, skinny kind of stand. And then they would blow up the baggies with like a small charge, splattering it all over the actors. For other scenes, like say when Emily and her children explode, they actually made and used a blood cannon for that.
Yeah, because they're off camera when that happens, but their explosions go on the wall.
Well, a lot of the scenes too, where you see, you know how like when Helen explodes and you see kind of each actor just getting splashed with blood, they actually shoot them with like the blood cannon. It's really cool.
I hope one day I own a blood cannon. That just sounds awesome.
It does. All right, so ratings and kill count. We got a total kills of 15. We got Charles, who was shot kind of in the beginning. Clara, who was shot in the face and died. We have Tina, who was shot with the crossbow and then decapitated with the axe. Dora, who was crushed to death by the dumbwaiter. Stevens, who I guess is the butler, killed in the car crash. Daniel, who was shot in the neck by Charity. Becky, who was beaten to death with the box. Helene, who was blown up by LaBelle. Fitch, blown up by LaBelle. Charity, blown up. Emily, blown up. Georgie, blown up. Gabe, blown up. Tony, who was blown up. And finally, Alex, who got blown up. Favorite kill. So I'm up first. I am going to go with Helene exploding. For one, it was awesome. For two, I wasn't expecting it the first time I seen it. For three, I fucking hate her. My second is Tina, who was shot with the crossbow by Emily by accident, because that whole fucking scene is gut busting funny to me.
Yeah, I went with Aunt Helene too. Same reasons. It was a surprise, and she was a bitter old bitch. I would probably go with a second being the dancing maid who gets cut in half by the little elevator that I can't remember what it's called.
Dumbwaiter.
The dumbwaiter.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like they missed an awesome opportunity to drop the upper half of her body out of that thing. I really wanted to go with the butler Stevenson, but we never really get to see him die. Like
Yeah.
I could have done if they allocated 10 minutes of this movie of her beating him with a hammer. I'd have been okay with that.
Yeah.
It'd have been best kill.
I would have liked that. That would have been great.
Yeah, he was the fucking worst character, and she doesn't really kill him. Like, we don't get to see him actually die. She kicks him in the face twice, and then they wreck in the car, and she doesn't really get to put the revenge on him.
All right, so rating. I rated this thing a 4.5. This movie, it was unique. It was fun. I thought all the actors in it were great. They were all funny. They were all believable. I think the idea was cool. I mean, to have a horror movie with a unique idea nowadays is more of an independent thing. And to see it kind of come out of a bigger movie, I really thought that was awesome. They had it's got a lot of kills. It's got 15 kills. They're all fun. I just think it's just a really fun movie to watch. If I want to watch a really fun movie, it's one of the movies I consider. So yeah, I'm going 4.5, man. I enjoy it.
I went with the 3.9. I think overall it's a fun movie. Like you said, it's more fun than anything else. I love the story. The story's original. The cinematography and the aesthetic, I really liked. It's a very clean movie.
Yeah.
And the setting's great, which is like the old, historic old money mansion. And the cinematography and aesthetic kind of matches that. And I feel like it goes together really well. Like, it's a really clean cut, beautiful, very clear movie, but also dark at the same time. The acting was really good. I'll definitely say that this movie was much more funny and less scary. I'm personally not a fan of the comedy horrors. I probably mentioned that on the show quite a few times. I do like comedy horrors when they're meant solely to be a comedy, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like, that's a funny movie. I don't consider that a horror movie. It's more funny. Or when they're funny not on purpose. That's always good.
So bad is funny.
Yeah, so like
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yes. That's probably the best example. My biggest gripe on this is going to be not enough practical effects. It's a lot of CGI, and that really fits this type of movie. You know, in most horror movies, the death scenes are meant to be really scary, so they put a lot of time into practical effects. That was not the aim of this movie. This movie was more for a really original, good story.
What's odd is if you watch the making of, they actually talk about how much practical effects they use.
Yeah, and it's really like a lot of the, like, I know at the end when they spray them with the blood and stuff like that, all that's real. The explosions are of course CGI, which they kind of have to be. But some of the early on deaths were definitely, they may have done them, like the stab, the getting shot with the arrows, and then what is it, the where they could, like, the harpoon gun, he
harpoon,
gets
yeah.
shot. Like, obviously they built a practical setup for that shot, but a lot of it was aided with a lot of CGI. A lot of CGI blood. But overall, man, I love the ending of this movie. I love how they tied in, like, him being the chosen one, he's supposed to take over the family, and kind of what they did with the ending. So overall, fun movie.
Yeah, if you like this movie, man, check out their movie that came out this year, which is Abigail. Very similar vibe. I obviously don't think Abbeville, Abbeville.
Abbeville, the Abbeville horror.
I don't think Abigail is as good as this, but it is done by the same people and it has a very similar feel to it. You know, they basically, you know, it's this group of, you know, I don't know how to explain them. They're like, you know, they specialize in different things of like how to steal stuff. Like you would think they'd steal diamonds and shit, but they really kidnapped this little girl who's like this, you know, daughter of some super rich, powerful person. And they got her in this mansion again. And they lock the mansion down and they basically say, you know, you got to keep her here at this mansion until daylight, until someone comes or whatever. And, you know, she's a fucking vampire. But you have the same similar, like you have, you know, really funny, good characters throughout it. And you kind of just have a ton of fucking killing and a ton of crazy shit going on. Very similar movie. So if you like this, because I remember I watched Abigail and I told you, like, it's really fun. You know, I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be dumb, but I watched it anyway and I actually had a really good time. The same thing as this. I had a really good time with this movie. So
Well,
check it out.
They also did Scream 6.
They did
right?
Scream 5 and 6. I actually heard them talk about earlier tonight.
I don't mention 5.
Well,
don't talk about that.
they actually talked about 5, how they had a really difficult time. They said there was one point where Scream 5 was in a really, really dark place because they were kind of battling with the studio because the studio wanted them to do this and they were like, but you know, if this sucks, everyone's going to blame us for it. And there was apparently a lot of battling with the studio with Scream 5. But yeah, they did 5 and 6. And I think that's maybe why they didn't want to do 7, because they kind of had it with, that's my theory, I don't know. But it seems like they kind of had it with dealing with Spyglass and stuff and just moved on.
Well, I know Scream 5, because I've seen them talking about it on the making of 6. That was a kind of a tough movie because it was kind of the passing of the torch to these new characters. And they had a really hard time, like, evening out the kinks with that, making it a good movie. Clearly, they had a hard time making it a good movie. But 6 is great. And
6 is awesome.
So they mention in 6, one thing they like to do is use as much practical effects as possible.
Mm-hmm.
In that movie, the practical effects are great. Now, a lot of the practical effects that they're talking about in that are the actual settings and scenes. They don't like to build stuff on set. They like to be in a practical location as much as possible. So that kind of makes sense with them doing it in this fucking mansion in an actual place.
I think that the problem with the effects here is they just couldn't do it because of where they were filming. And I don't know how that came to be. I don't know if maybe they got approval there and then found out when they got there that they couldn't touch anything. I don't really know. But, I mean, these are the same dudes who did that. They blew up off of VHS. They did the original VHS. So they got some good stuff, man. Check out some of their other movies. But this one's awesome. I love this movie. So once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website. Check out the socials. Tell a friend, a family member, or your super rich but evil in-laws about the show. We hope to see you next time. You got any last words? Fucking rich people.